It is a beautiful Wednesday morning, 4th of June, 2025. Good morning. My name is Victor Olo. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. It is a brilliant one. We are fast approaching the cold season in Nairobi. The rains are going to subside, but then the peak of the cold season in Nairobi is going to peak. Caution. I am a victim. Please be cautious. It's going to be so cold and we'll be susceptible to a lot of flu and so much of that. Be careful. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. Today we have got a marathon show, what we call a buffet of our programs and segments to serve you between now and 10 a.m. And starting at exactly 7, I'll be having that discussion. In the recent past, we've seen a number of journalists facing it with either security officers or the state. But then today I want us to talk about the issue to do with media and politics, or media and the state. How can these two people relate cohesively for their work to be seamless? That is going to be my discussion today. And I'll be having that discussion with one gentleman called Ken Bosire. Ken Bosire is a training journalist. He's also a consultant. He's been a managing director of a newspaper for so many years. So he has got that deep background when it comes to newsroom management and as far as journalism practice is concerned. And thereafter, I know Regina will be happy about this. The accreditation, most of the SMEs in this country are actually not doing well because they are not accredited. But do you know there is an accreditation process for you to grow as an SME? Now, Kenya will be celebrating World Accreditation Day on Monday, and I'll be having a discussion to discuss that, and I'll be having Felista Nyakoi, who's a manager, Testing Laboratories Scheme, that is KENAS, and also Stanleus Masinza, who is the strategy manager, Calibration Laboratories, KENAS. That is the Kenya Accreditation Services. Will be marking World Accreditation Day on Monday. A beautiful discussion. Mike.
Oh, yes.
Are you accredited?
Yeah.
Of course, by the
Media Council.
Very good. Right. Good morning.
Good morning, Victor, and everyone who is watching KBC Channel 1. Of course, as Victor has alluded, today is a buffet of everything that you need to start your day. And as conversations are continuing, I'll be talking about the saving dynamics. We look at the whole concept of saving behavior, and that is a conversation I'll be having by Elizabeth Nkuku, who is a seasoned finance and investment professional. That is a conversation that will be coming to you right here on Good Morning Kenya. And also we shall be looking at the special needs education, the involvement of the education, the challenges within the sector, matters to do with staffing. That is one of the things that we shall be looking at. And Dr. Apostle James Nthiga, who is the director of Triumph in Christ School in Embu, will be joining me here on set to talk about the special needs education. So I invite you to tune into this live broadcast. Remember, you can be part of the conversation by tweeting to us at KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms. Check our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you, Mike.
How are you
I like
doing?
that you answered that you're accredited under the Media Council of Kenya.
Yes.
As a journalist there. Glad to know that you have all that lined up this today. Just to remind Kenyans is that come the 12th, that is next week, none other than Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi is going to be presenting a 4.3 trillion shillings budget for the year 2025-2026. The question is, what is in that particular budget for you as Wanjiko? At a time when a government is actually saying that there's no introduction of new taxes. But does this then mean life is going to be more affordable? That's a big question, right? We'll continue unpacking what is in the budget on our business desk here, KBC Channel 1, just to bring you up to speed and familiarize with that particular proposed budget. The proposed budget has also been highlighted for one reason, and this has to do with Rose Njeri, who was apparently apprehended and currently is facing charges on what is termed as a hackers bill that is being used to seek justice. The government is seeking justice using the hackers bill, saying that she is in breach of the law. But is she? This is a question that has been posed looking at the amendments that are being pushed, especially in Parliament, to give the NC4 more powers. What does this mean to freedom of speech? I'm sure that is an item, or rather an area of conversation that Victor is going to be engaging his guest this morning, that is Mr. Bosire, on how the government and the fourth estate, that is the media, can coexist without much acrimony that we have been witnessing in the recent past. With that, let's start off with stories that have been making headlines. Just to remind you that you can get us on our website too for further details. That is www.kbc.co.ke. Now, we start off with matters, as we have mentioned. Software developer Rose Njeri, who is facing charges related to cybercrime, has been released on a personal bond of 100,000 shillings. Njeri was arrested after she created a website where Kenyans were to submit their views on the Finance Bill 2025. Her defense team, led by former Chief Justice David Maraga and Kalonzo Musyoka, argued the intended charges leveled against her lacked clear legal foundation and infringe upon her constitutional rights. The court has reserved its ruling for the 20th of June.
Software developer and digital activist Rose Njeri's arraignment at the Milimani's Magistrate Court came after a 3-day detention at Pangani Police Station caused massive uproar. The Director of Public Prosecution through Senior Counsel Juma Victor Witi and Wanjiru Aweru informed the court that Njeri's action disrupted the normal functioning of parliamentary systems.
Charge or information shall contain and shall be sufficient if it contains a statement of the specific offense.
The prosecution urged the court to allow the suspect take plea on charges alleged to related cybercrime offenses as per the charge sheet.
Questions of alleged breaches of fundamental rights and freedoms, very limited under Section 8.2. Whether that act or statute gives the court jurisdiction to hear criminal cases, including the one proposed to be instituted by the charges, the impugned charges before you.
However, a defense team comprising retired Chief Justice David Maraga, Dr. John Kaminwa, former LSK President Eric Theuri, among dozens others opposed her being charged, stating the charges are invalid and not known in law.
Public participation can be achieved in very many ways. And what Rose has done is to bring it to the entire public who may wish to get electronic copies to know what is in the bill.
This charge should be thrown out. You bring that shock to those who are in the power. Let them not take you for granted.
Any person who sent such an email can be the subject of such a charge.
The court was further told that the charge sheet is an abuse of court process, both locally and globally, and should therefore be dismissed.
Harassment of citizens, and in this case, Rose Njeri has caught the imagination not just of the country, but the whole world.
Trial Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo has reserved his ruling for 20th June. Njeri was arrested last Friday at her home in Nairobi.
I don't know why she has been arrested. I hope it is not in connection with the finance bill, because really we are able to engage that young girl. I know she was really trying to bring out disinformation.
Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning Kenya.
Count number 1 is...
We need to go together.
Set the date of June 20th. This is going to be a landmark ruling. Remember, there's been call to even review the Cyber Crimes Act there with some few amendments that are likely to give the NC4 more powers there. Kenyans saying that their right to speech is highly likely to be infringed upon come that particular bill. Now, calls for the government to gazette Career Valley as an insecurity-prone area resonated during the burial of slain priest Father Allois Cheriot Abet in Nandi County. Father Cheriot was shot dead by bandits in Tot, Elgeyo Marakwet County a fortnight ago. As Timothy Knusu reports, both the religious and political leaders have called on the government to leave no stone unturned in ensuring that Father Allois' killers face the full force of the law.
Somber mood engulfed the body of the slain priest Father Allois Cheriot Abet in Nandi County on Tuesday. Mourners who converged to pay their last respects to the slain priest urged the security apparatus to do a thorough investigation to ensure all those involved in the heinous act face the music.
Hii kuwa Father Allois sio aliua Father Allois kimakosa, ni kwa sababu walikuwa wamekuwa cornered. Wamezuiwa kuiba ng'ombe, wamezuiwa kuumiza watu wale wengine, sasa wakarudi sasa uchogozi.
Hao walifu ikutana na sheria. Mimi sitasema kwamba wauawe, mimi sitasema hivyo, lakini wapatikane na sheria ifanye nini, ifanye kazi yake.
Led by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, the leaders at the same time urged the government to declare Kerio Valley as a disturbed area.
Hiyo eneo la Kerio Valley lazima ikuwe gazetted as disturbed area so that operation can be done. Kama ile ilifanyika Mount Elgon kufukuza SDLF pale, operation disturbed area.
Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat used the occasion to assure the family that justice will be served.
Nataka niwaombe nyinyi wote mtusamee na tunawahakikishia hii kifo ya father inaweza kuwa turning point ya hiyo vita iko Kerio Valley. Wengi wetu tujawahi lala. Kama mimi nimekuwa governor tangu niwe governor, nilienda kwa president siku ya kwanza. Wakati huyu governor anaomba factory, mimi huwa naomba bunduki ya KPR na risasi, mimi naomba kambi ya police, kambi ya jeshi. Hiyo vitu yote ndio mimi naombanga tu nikienda mahali.
Bandits hawa pale Kerio Valley ni ile kila mtu amesema, they have crossed all the red lines. Kuanzia watoto, akina mama, wazee, sasa wamefikia mapadri. Hii kifo cha Father Allois Abet tumeweza kujua, na mimi sikuwa nimejua hii mpaka ile siku nilienda Chesongoji pale.
It is very unfortunate that the person in charge of security, waziri anatoka pale Elgeyo Marakwet. Now they say charity begins at home. If you cannot fix the security from your home, how can you fix the security of the country?
Takes us back to the still unsolved death, or rather murder, of Father Kaiser in unclear circumstances. We're still waiting years on to find out what was the motive behind his murder and who are the perpetrators. We hope that the death of Father Allois does not end up in this similar particular trend. Now, President William Ruto has issued a directive to allocate 20% of government-constructed affordable housing units to uniformed officers, including the Kenya Defence Forces and the police. The head of state made the announcement during the launch of the Central Bank of Kenya Police Housing Complex. He said the directive is aimed at providing long-term stability for officers who often face housing challenges, particularly in high-cost urban areas where the government housing has historically been inadequate.
President William Ruto on Tuesday launched the Central Bank of Kenya Police Housing Complex at Industrial Area, Nairobi County. It is here the President Ruto announced a major policy shift aimed at improving housing for Kenya's security services.
As part of our policy program, 20% of whole housing units being developed under affordable housing across the country will be ring-fenced for members of our disciplined forces from the military, the National Police Service, the Kenya prisons, and the National Youth Service.
This housing structure that you're opening today is giving dignity to the police force, people who we expect they take care of our lives, they protect us, but we've never accorded them the kind of dignity that they deserve for the work that they do.
The announcement paving way for uniformed officers, including the Kenya Defence Forces, National Police Service, Kenya Prison Service and the National Youth Service to get adequate housing. The head of state noted that the government was also introducing flexible and subsidized financing options to ease home ownership for officers under the program.
These officers will benefit from affordable financing through single-digit interest rates, as low as 3% for those who will buy social housing, 6% for those who will buy affordable housing, and 9% for those who will want to buy the high market houses. In addition, these officers will also benefit from what currently we are developing. Aside from what you see in this compound, through the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, we are delivering institutional housing for disciplined forces across the country.
The housing complex comprises fully furnished 200 two-bedroom and 10 three-bedroom apartments. Ruto said the finished units will provide dignified and decent homes for police officers assigned to the Central Bank of Kenya. The housing project is a result of a unique memorandum of understanding between the CBK and the National Police Service.
That particular directive by the president has set tongues wagging, especially on social media, with Kenyans questioning the motivation for government to move that direction and saying that it was not fair, given that the housing, affordable housing, everyone under PAYE is actually getting deducted, or rather there's a house levy of 1.5% on their gross earnings. Some saying that it should be come first, first come, first served, as those who are registered under the Bomayang. What is your take? Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. What is your take in regard to that particular directive by President William Ruto on matters affordable housing? That is 20% of these particular houses to go to the security apparatus in the country. Now, Kwale Governor Fatma Chani risks being surcharged 2 million shillings after making irregular payments to the Council of Governors to cover operational costs for the 2023 Devolution Conference held in Uasin Gishu County. Now, the county government made a contribution of 4 million shillings in total for the financial year 2023-2024, 2 million shillings to cover the cost of Kilifi participating in the conference, an additional 2 million shillings for the operational costs already catered for under the Intergovernmental Relations Act. Senators have recommended to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, to recover the 2 million paid to the council.
The debate surrounding the county governors making irregular payments to the Council of Governors has once again resurfaced.
350 million to deliver a governor's residence. What is special about this house?
It's worth it. It's worth the amount, even though...
Governor, it's worth it when there's medicine in hospitals. It's worth it when your food processing plant is complete. It's worth it when your markets are functional.
This time it was Kwale County on the spot.
And I thought that's where you are hiding your COG contributions.
This is after the county government made a contribution of 4 million shillings in total for the financial year 2023-2024 towards the Devolution Conference in Uasin Gishu.
And you paid 4 million for those services?
I've not paid for Homa Bay.
No, Governor, leave Homa Bay out of this. And what is that?
That is what is used to run, support Council of Governors.
That's operational expense, which is clearly provided for.
While the senators did not take issue with the 2 million shillings paid to cover the cost of the county participating in the conference, the Auditor General raised queries of an additional 2 million shillings expenditure to foot the council's operation cost already catered for in the Intergovernmental Relations Act.
Our problem is contribution for operational costs of the COG. That should be borne by the Consolidated Fund.
The Moses Kajwang-led committee has since recommended to the anti-graft body EACC to recover irregular contributions made to the council within 60 days of adoption of their report.
So I think to avoid wasting time, we'll just be asking EACC. Patricia, we had a conversation on how to give effect to this. We need to have a discussion on how to give effect to this recovery.
The Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, had recommended the stoppage of the irregular payments to the council and any governor violating the recommendations be surcharged. Further, the county governor was also at pains to explain why she requires 350 million shillings to construct her residence.
Palatial residence for the governor. Is it fair?
We have to conclude the governor's residence. It has so many things. Apart from the house, it has a conference, an office. It has so many.
The project, which was estimated at 149 million shillings initially, exceeded the Salaries and Remuneration Commission ceiling of 45 million shillings.
Because it sounds immoral to spend 350 million on the residence of a governor.
County has not paid for my house.
No, I'm just saying.
And even now, I still live in my house.
If the governor of Okwale lives in a house of 350 million, and the house you live in is sufficient, right?
Yes, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's enough.
In fact, I don't even want to live.
So have you ever asked your predecessor what was the thinking behind this development of 350 million?
I don't think that was the appropriate reaction there, laughing at that question that was asked in regard to whether the governor there considered asking her predecessor what was the thought process behind the 350 million construction of a governor's residence down there in Kuala. We'll continue keeping tabs on that and see if the recommendations are going to hold with the EACC in regard to Fatuma Chani there and matters of misappropriation of funds and such. Now, People's Liberal Party leader Martha Karua has disclosed that human rights organizations will seek justice for activists Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire in Uganda at the East African Court of Justice and African Court of Human and People's Rights for atrocities committed by Tanzanian authorities. She called on the African Union Commission to form a commission of inquiry to probe the matter.
A day after activist Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire of Uganda narrated their ordeal in the hands of Tanzanian authorities while in detention in Communicado, People's Liberal Party leader Martha Karua says human rights organizations will seek justice at the East African Court of Justice, African Court on Human and People's Rights, and other avenues.
I know the East African Law Society is filing an action against the authorities in Tanzania, in the first instance, in the Tanzanian courts. We'll be suing in the African court and on any other site possible internationally.
Karua also calling on the African Union Commission to launch a probe into the matter.
We call upon the African Union through the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and the UN Human Rights Council to establish a commission of inquiry into human rights abuses in Tanzania, in Uganda, and Kenya. The people we have mentioned affected are just a tip of the iceberg.
Karua saying persons involved in committing the atrocities against the duo, including torture and sexual assault, must be held to account.
We urge you to impose targeted sanctions on individuals, not on countries, on individuals responsible for enforced disappearances, torture and suppression of civic space. And they're known. In Tanzania, at least we now know.
She, however, raised concerns over the silence of the international community, the United Nations and the African Union over abuse of human rights.
This is no longer a Tanzanian issue. It's no longer a Ugandan or a Kenyan issue. It's an East African issue, and it's also an African issue.
Further, the PLP leader condemned the arrest of Rose Njeri for developing a program that aids public participation on Finance Bill 2025.
Just imagine the irony that today was the start of the public participation on the 2025 Finance Bill. Yet, Rose Njeri was arrested because of providing space online for Kenyans to robustly participate.
Keeping tabs on that. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Aidan Duale says spare parts to fix broken down cancer treatment machines are expected to arrive in the country within the week. Duale, who toured the Kenyatta National Hospital to assess the situation, says the government is committed to ensuring cancer patients access treatment and plans are underway to source extra cancer treatment machines. Meanwhile, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi on Tuesday assumed office as the Chief Executive Officer of the Social Health Authority, where she vowed to ensure no Kenyan is left behind in accessing quality health care.
On Tuesday, Health Cabinet Secretary Aidan Duale toured Kenyatta National Hospital to assess the state of affairs at the facility following numerous complaints triggered by the breakdown of the Liner cancer machine. The CSO visited various departments, including the Cancer Treatment Center, said the machine will be up and running as soon as the spare parts arrive in the country in the course of the week.
That machine is 10 years old, is at its lifespan. It was installed in 2015. We have talked to the vendor, who is doing all that he can, that by the end of this week, in the next 2 days, the spare will arrive, and we have a contingency for our patients in our other referral hospital.
Duale at the same time cautioned level 6 hospitals against abuse of office and inefficiency.
I will not tolerate mismanagement, inefficiency, and abuse of public resources. Following my recent visit to Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital and the issues that were raised, I am putting all level 6 hospitals, facilities on notice. Leadership and accountability must match the level of responsibility these institutions carry.
Meanwhile, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi assumed office as the Chief Executive Officer of the Social Health Authority following her appointment on the 1st of April 2025. She takes over from Robert Ingasira, who has been in acting capacity since November 2024, following the suspension of Elijah Washira. As she assumed office, she vowed to turn around SHA by, among other things, rebuilding trust through transparency and strengthening primary healthcare systems.
70% of us Kenyans actually access our services in dispensaries and health centers. 70% of us, very few of us trickle into the secondary level. And so one of the things we'll be doing in SHA, when you hear SHA, think of human-centered care, think of primary healthcare system.
On her first day, Mwangangi revealed that 13,000 Kenyans have already been onboarded to the Lipa SHA Pole Pole initiative launched 2 days ago by President William Ruto. Through this initiative, Kenyans with unpredictable incomes are said to benefit as they can pay premiums daily or monthly installments.
Whereby a chunk of your annual premium will expect you to pay for it, and then the remaining balance of that premium, you will be able to opt in to paying it either daily, monthly, weekly, for you to be able to actually get SHA.
So you have income in a year, you can easily pay 20,000 for your insurance for your family, but you can't get it today. We are giving you the opportunity so that you can get the premium in, so that we can pay and review that bone, a child who requires that bone marrow transplant, and even for you. And then you can pay this premium slowly.
Well, that puts a cap on Matters General News and ushers us to Matters Business. But before we take on Matters Business, I'd want to show you the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Unmasked faces in home buying scams. This points out to the matters of fraudulent cases that are coming up in the real estate, where some investors have paid up to 6 million shillings, but the houses are incomplete 6 years later. And just to read the kicker here is Kenyans in diaspora in particular are being lured into property investments back home only to later discover they sunk millions into bogus schemes. More depressing is the plight of retiring workers who believed they were investing in posh retirement homes only to find stalled structures in thickets. This is a developing story that a majority of media houses are are focusing on across the country. And there are some names and mugshots that have already been published in this particular daily there. We have 3 persons of interest there. We have Patrick Mushoki, who is the managing director of Mahiga Homes Limited, that is accused of taking millions from investors without delivering houses. We have Egidio Kinyanjui, who is a managing director of Wilston Homes, who was a sales manager of Banda Homes that left investors in tears. I remember we had that story. We also have Peter Nyaga, the managing director of Certified Homes Limited, and was a chief executive officer at Mahiga Homes Limited. What has been your experience? You know, are you part of the victims? Remember, we are open to feedback. To business now on matters energy, as Kenya is set to import an additional 200 megawatts of power as it seeks to shore up capacity from Ethiopia in the coming month to bridge a power deficit. Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority Director General Daniel Kipto says a technical team has been dispatched to Ethiopia to negotiate the terms of the expanded power purchase agreement.
Kenya's installed electricity capacity stands at 3,243 megawatts, with an effective capacity of 3,030 megawatts. However, as of February 2025, the available capacity was 2,320 megawatts, barely exceeding the highest peak demand of 2,316 megawatts recorded in the same month. The small margin between peak demand and available capacity has seen the Ministry of Energy intensifying the push to lift the 3-year moratorium on onboarding new independent power producers.
This year we have 283 megawatts of a deficit in our mix. Our reserve margin sometimes is less than 5 megawatts, and this is a big challenge because because you have planned outages, because our power plants have to go out for maintenance sometimes, and also have unplanned maintenance.
Dr. Kipto says Kenya plans to import an additional 200 megawatts of electricity from Ethiopia to enhance reserve margin to the standard of 15%. to cushion the grid against potential disruptions.
It's an ongoing conversation. I think there was a team there a couple of weeks ago. The next level will be an engagement at the policy level. So really buying power from our neighboring countries is not necessarily a bad thing. But again, there's an issue of national security, which is an issue of energy security, that we need to be self-sustaining. But also Kenya needs to be able to develop its geothermal resource and all other resources and be able to export power into our neighboring countries.
He was speaking at the launch of the IPRA Research and Innovation Conference.
Now, that puts a cap just to remind you that there are plans by government to divert the monies, the draft regulations for the government to use a housing levy cash that is currently with the AG to construct schools, marketplaces, police posts, as well as hospitals. What's your take on that? This was a key highlight with the president's speech during the celebrations that we just had, Madaraka celebrations there. And now the labor union, KOTU, has opposed the diversion of funds to other projects, that saying that this could lead to misuse. What is your take? As you ponder on that and get us on X at KBC Channel 1, the Pamoja countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, have expressed their commitment to delivering a successful African Nations Championship, CHAN, which is slated for the 2nd to the 30th of August this year. Speaking to the media in Nairobi, the three sports ministers said they will issue a Pamoja visa to ensure seamless movement of players and fans, as well as ensure exemption of taxes on equipment to be used during that particular tournament.
It's only 61 days left now before the 2025 edition of the African Nations Championship CHAN commences. The hosting countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, have stepped up their preparations towards hosting the $39 million tournament. Both nations have agreed to exempt tax on equipment to be used during the tournament. Led by Kenya's Cabinet Secretary in charge of sports, Salim Mvurya, the ministers reaffirmed their commitment to delivering a successful championship.
One of the areas that we looked at is the issue of a visa that will allow the three countries to allow either fans or players And therefore, what we have agreed as ministers in the 3 countries, we will be working with our other ministries in charge of immigration to ensure that we have a seamless visa entry requirements.
To pamoja. When I talk about pamoja, I mean Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Please come and witness. And I'm very sure it will be the best competition in the history of CHAN.
Kenya is in Group A alongside 2-time champions Morocco, DR Congo, Angola, and Zambia in the 2024 African Nations Championship.
Mashindano haya pamoja na yote imetusaidia nchi za Afrika Mashariki sasa kuja na miundombinu ya michezo, sports infrastructure na miundombinu ya michezo ya aina yake, ambayo ina maana CHAN ikiisha, AFCON ikiisha, bado tuna uwezo wa kufanya mashindano mengine mengi.
DR Congo and Morocco lead with the most titles with 2 crowns each, while Senegal are the reigning champions, having won the title in 2022.
That officially puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Remember, June 20th, the court is going to pronounce itself in regard to the matter pertaining Rose and Jerry. June 20th, 2025. Save the date. I'm Regina Manyara. Have a pleasant day ahead.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1. The men and women in boots. Their core mandate to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall.
Laziness. It is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy Joe.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Good morning, welcome back. It's a brilliant morning again. Let's talk about Viewpoint today, and on the Viewpoint, let's talk about media and the state, media and politics, the fourth estate versus the state, or the government if you so wish. So who is the government and who is the fourth estate? Do you know you are the government? You, yes, you watching me. You are the government, all right? but you only have to give that power, delegated power, to somebody, all right, to govern, but you are the government. So let's talk about media and politics. In the recent past, we've seen ourselves as the fourth estate facing a lot of backlash from the government or from the political class. And today I just want to take a look at where we should be drawing the line between us as the fourth estate and the politicians. Today, the politicians will hit at the fourth estate. The next minute, the fourth estate, the fourth estate will also hit back at the government, and that has brought a lot of friction, with the recent one having some journalists being injured during the Madaraka Day celebration in Homa Bay County, 4 of them to be precise. So let's talk about that. And the gentleman in studio is Ken Bosire. Ken Bosire is a long-standing journalist with so many years of experience. Amefunga tu hapa kwa sleeve. Okay. All right. Ken Bosire is a training journalist and journalist, editor, as well as a consulting editor. He has got so many titles at the same time. Good morning.
Thanks, Victor.
He's my senior in the industry.
Thanks, Victor, for having
Karibu
me.
sana.
Thanks for having me, Victor.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's do it first of all. Let me take you through the front page of the local daily, starting with the Standard. State impunity. That is what I have on the front page of the Standard newspaper. State impunity, and the lady on the picture is Njeri. She appeared before the High Court yesterday. Rose Njeri, a software developer and a civic activist, thought that she was using her skills to educate Kenyans on the finance bill and have them register their dissent. In return, a law that targets hackers is being used to prosecute her. And now her arrest and arraignment has lawyers and critics up in arms, accusing the state of weaponizing cybercrime laws to silence digital activism and public participation. All eyes are on the judiciary on June 20th to see where hacking starts and dissent stops. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Again, it's the end of an era for Nancy Macharia as she leaves TSC after 10 years at helm, and she started her terminal leave. That ends on 30th. Very fast, on the front page of the Daily Nation, unmasked faces in home buying scams. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Unmasked faces in home buying scams. There are 3 gentlemen here who are also in question. And again, Nancy Macharia there, still on the front page. And up there are 2 gentlemen. Raila takes on Ruto over brutal state crackdown. He made a statement during the Madaraka Day celebration that the people who were injured during last year's Gen Z protest should be compensated. And that apparently and allegedly has not gone so well with some of the supporters of the president. And finally, on the front page of the Star newspaper, Gachagua under fire for calling Mount Kenya MPs foolish. All right, that's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Again, we have got to hope as House team approves IEBC nominees. Finally, we can see there's some white smoke for the IEBC to be fully constituted. And then we also have Rose Njeri here. For the first time, I think we saw the former CJ, Maraga, actually appearing before the judge. All right, to represent Njeri. That was quite a spectacular. Nobody saw that coming. Ken, if you're in the newsroom and writing that story, how would you phrase it in the paper?
Maraga story.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm just assuming. Okay. So we are here. I am so sure you've been following what's happening in the country quite keenly. But one thing that is quite common here, Ken, is that there is that push and pull between the fourth estate and the state. What is happening?
Really, the big question is really what's happening.
What's happening, right?
The question is that it appears now, it appears like now it is escalating. It has always been there. The relationship between the media and the police, the security agencies, has always been very adversarial, very hostile, because we have our duties. Those ones are trained to protect, and we are trained to seek and try and go behind the lines. So in that area of convergence, That's where the problem has been. A lot of issues. First of all, I want to send my apologies and my empathies to the people who are injured, the young people who have come into the profession, who might be traumatized, and that trauma affects their work and might even discourage others from going into the industry. It can be bad, and I think that is something that we really need to address as a country. But having said that, that the current very hostile, very toxic relationship between the media and the state has a background. The government that is in place now, the Kenya Kwanza government, came into office with a very clear message, with the feeling and with the mindset that the media was always against them. So that has permeated through the ranks, that these people have never supported us. So that already set the stage for what you're seeing as what we call state hostility towards the media. But the media has also, it's been a bigger landscape, that the media is now operating in a very plural kind of setup. We are more in the industry, because we are more, it's not name recognition or institution representative. We have got a plethora of what we call citizen journalists, independent people, bloggers. So in one single day, in one single event, you can have as many as 60 journalists covering the same event, jostling for the same space. Even within the media space itself, there is jostling for that space. But the policing, the template for policing and managing media has remained the same, largely. Media has changed. We are not using the recognizable equipment that we used to use. Today you have a phone. I'm done. So am I taking a selfie? Am I recording something? So those things are still very confusing to those police people. And that's engagement that we need to have. And the mindset. But looking at the headlines, looking at the reactions, looking at what police are saying, and the silence from the people who are perpetrators of violence and harassment against police. They are silent, but we are talking. That means, are we talking to people who are listening? Are we talking to people who are giving us a contemptuous silence? And that's exactly what worries me. It looks like already the battle lines are drawn. You're there, it's us versus this person. And this is what worries me, that yet we all have a duty to seek information and get what we need. And somebody has to play a facilitative role instead of being a hindrance or a hurdle towards the media getting information or getting access to what we call, because the access is very core to what we call media press freedom. And the public has a right to know. So if that information is not brought out, then the public does not know. And that is already an infringement, is an offense to the Constitution. When you're talking about the articles that entrench media freedoms and also entrench the existence of media as a country.
We all know that we've existed, even the Bible. Waandishi wa habari, we are in the Bible.
Yes.
Right? One of the oldest professions. But is it that whenever we articulate the 5 W's and 1 H, somebody is not comfortable with that?
Truth is always going to be uncomfortable to the powers that be, because you're going into their space and you're exposing for what they are not. I remember the advantage of history. In the KANU days, there was the late Mulu Mutisa KANU Supremo in Machakos, and God rest his soul in peace. So, he one time said media people were so useless that the people of no character of anything, that were just conceived and born by the roadside.
Wow.
That shows you that this hostility has existed, and how we make it toxic and expand it and escalate it is the problem. We'll always be operating in an adversarial position. But we have to recognize that we all have a constitutional right to do what we have a duty. And this space, we have to know how to manage it. It's like in a marriage where you may have divergent interests, but you have to find a point of convergence, agreeing this has to be done. However uncomfortable it is, truth, you can't hide it. It will come out. And when it comes out, there's bound to be reactions. And politicians love to operate in a place where there is darkness, where they can do things without being spotlighted. And because of our spotlighting, we'll make them very uncomfortable. They squirm in their seats, and the only reaction would be, instead of engaging, they would try and squash you. Because if you can't manage me, the thing would be to silence me. and they're using a real big stick. So I think it behoves all of us, to the authorities, to have more engagement in terms of what we can. We need to talk. How do we, for example, assign today from the newsroom? Who is your editor? If you're going out there and you find a situation that you're not getting access, do you have somebody who can also speak above you and say, this person has this is the assigning editor, can we do this? So that also has changed, because some of us...
Why has it changed? Are we having kind of liberal mindsets in the newsroom?
It's not just liberal. The media itself is not as defined as it was. We are pluralistic. We have expanded. We have single media ownership, where you are the owner of the media, you are the editor, you are the reporter, and everything else. So the structure in itself has been disrupted by what we call technology and expansion of the media. So that responsibility across the things of saying, I can intervene on your behalf if there is this element, is not there. You just have to intervene for yourself. Also, the level of engagement as well. If it was going to cover, for example, Madaraka Day, we had a way that we would always know that the media will have access through this gate. But now they are entering with the crowd. They are mixing with the crowd. So is it that nobody cares that the media will be here? Do the organizers know that there will be a media that we need to enable the access, or they can just come with the crowd that is crashing into the stadium? If they crash with the crowd, then they're going to get caught up in the shoving and pushing. And then the police will not see you as a media, they will see as a crowd coming in.
And then the crowd control sets in. So where does you draw the professional line? So that there is a professional between the fourth estate and the other side, either the state, the public, or politics, whichever side it may be.
I think for us as a profession, we have our reactions. I'm really saying this with a lot of pain, that a lot of we have tended to be very responsive, very reactive. An incident happens, the first thing is a condemnatory statement, almost like a template. You know they will start like this, they will end like this, and condemn and call for action. Do we, because we know that the basic thing, that security starts with you when you're out there in the field. If you know you're going into a place that is going to imperil your life, the first thing is to do, how do I place myself? How do I gain interest? And that needs training. That is training right from the newsroom, from the assigning editor, and to the larger groups that are also condemning. Are we investing enough in training our journalists on how to cover hostile and likely escalating situations? That for me is a worry. I remember the Media Council used to have a lot of courses on training on safety. And the stress was always the line. Safety starts with you. Don't wait to get hurt so that we can...
No story is worth your life.
We can't wait to get hurt and then say, I was injured while carrying this. Try as much as you can to be safe so that you can get that story. 2, we need to move beyond condemnation.
Just before we move on, safety would mean even emotional safety.
Psychological safety.
Psychological safety.
Everything.
The physical safety.
Everything. It's a whole 360 thing. Because if you go, look at a situation where, for instance, like now the media, we all know that there is what we call welfare issues. If I have not paid my rent, if I've not eaten, if I've not been paid, and you deploy me to a situation like that, my emotional stability is likely to be affected. So how do I react to a policeman who stops me? The cop is probably also not well remunerated, he's tired. So the welfare issue is also playing into this. You're sending people out there who are already themselves existing in very, very difficult circumstances. The operating environment is difficult. Where you're going to work is also becoming difficult. So what do you expect? You're going to expect an explosion of these emotions and hostilities. So that is very, very important.
Allow me to take you back now. Where is the professional line drawn? Because when, for example, with the recent incident, Madaraka Day celebration in Homa Bay County, a couple of journalists were injured. So what really happens in that situation? A police officer or security agents are supposed to do their work professionally as they have been given that order during that event. So where do you draw that professional line?
This is
because
why
the relationship is quite complex.
It's very complex because this person is also very tense.
Right.
It's very tense. And you also probably not, you want to get there. Do we take time? Do we understand? That's why we say prior arrangements will enable us to engage and say, these are the number of people, facilitate for us our entry, and this happens. I know some of the policemen are also, some of the state security agencies are also overshooting their lines, they're overreacting, but they should be able to respect. But the thing is, once we should now know the professionalism that you're talking about. This is a professional, train them, and we know our professional ethics and how to do the work. And it's important for us that, for us to call out, because it's not every police officer who is going out to attack journalists. We can go out and single them and begin to say, if I get into the unfortunate element where I'm being attacked, do I identify the officer? What do I do after that? Because we have to call out, hold these officers to account. You can't say it's the entire police force, the police service that is attacking everybody. There's that particular officer X who attacked you, who went out of his way to infringe on your rights and hobble your professional work. Single him out. What do you do when you have been done this? For example, in the Madaraka Day incident, how many of those cases have been documented? Have they gone to the police and made an OB so that there is a particular line of action that an officer, the others will be used as an example and insist that this officer is the one. You know, you can sue them individually. Yeah? You don't have to sue the entire police force. I can say, Victor Ken Bosire, you attacked me while I was on duty and you're on duty for no justifiable reason. I will sue you. And I can sue you as an individual and take, so that these things, it's time for us to begin to have accountability mechanisms, both individual and as the service. And the media can get together and say, I know in the past we have had cases, but we have also run into issues where they tell you, was this matter reported? Was a P3 form taken? And then the evidence, the whole process fails because we've not followed through.
But it seems that when there is this push and pull between the two bodies, it's like there is some kind of benefits that both parties are getting. Because the media will highlight what happened to them, and the government will also say, this is us, they are getting more popularity.
I doubt. The person who suffers here is the public. Because the public then does not get the information. Then we get into war. We become like two little elephants fighting. And the grass is the one that, because we have a public duty. This police officer who is there has a right to protect the public, to ensure law and order. But we also have a right to get information within that ecosystem that we can inform the public. The common denominator here is the public good. For the good of the public. If we get into fighting, then the public suffers. So I don't think any one of them is getting anything. It's a very unfortunate situation that begin to speak very badly towards our democracy and towards our development as a society. Because we should be able to work together in civility. We should be able to facilitate each other. Why are we fighting? Then that means we are losing focus on our core mandates as journalists, and we're engaging. Because if we take a whole of page 1 to write about police hostility, when are we going to write about this story that was unfolding?
Okay. When you look at how the entire journalism and the media operates, there's a space, a safe space for them to operate. But then now, when you look at the agenda setting, hours to inform, to educate, and all that, but then now, there comes a point where you find the political class trying to override the professionalism of the media. So, is it beyond redemption, the relationship between these two bodies?
We have to call, it's not beyond redemption, we have called ourselves to order. It's important that we know we serve the public. But the mindset of a politician is to try and hide whatever they do. And for us is to bring out what they do and to limelight, to hold them accountable. And there's nothing a politician hates more than being held to account. And they will try and fight and protect that space. But what is interesting, Victor, that you talk about safety of journalists, the relationship between them and the state. There's an emerging trend where we have now what we are calling the public themselves standing on the media. The public turning on the media. You've had case incidents where the public has turned against the media, where they've said, we don't want you here because of our political alignment. We don't want you to cover this because of whether they belong to certain groupings.
Yes.
So we have had goons hired by politicians or interest groups to attack the media because they want to hide whatever. For example, there was this recent incident where we had the launch of one of the parties. The media covered the clash between the two. But at the core of it, nobody wanted to be highlighted. What was the trigger of that fight was the distribution of the money among the youth.
Yeah.
It escalated, but when the media captured that, those guys set upon the media because they didn't want that to come out. Because what was the trigger of the fight? Were they people hired to throw stones? Or were they people fighting over resources, political resources? So this is the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to come out. So the media becomes the enemy. They will whip the public, they will whip other people. The media will always find itself because we sit above all these guys to hold them to account, and we're always watching. And when we watch, we tell the public this is, and this injures the interests of the politician who would rather operate in darkness and do things the way they want to do, to perpetuate evils so that nothing.
Are the two bodies fighting for trust from Wanjiku? The political class fighting for trust, the media is also fighting for trust.
We have never fought for trust. The public trusts us. The person who has a trust deficit is the politician. The politician and the state is always held. Any institution, the state has to work harder to try and gain the public trust. And how do they gain it? By being open and working with the media, telling their story and letting us spotlight them and hold them to accountable. That's the only way they can gain public. But the media, in all things, is the most trusted institution in our national setup. That people trust and believe in what we say because we have a duty to tell the public. We are divesting, we divest from the nitty-gritty of what we call the little fightings for space and power and money and graft. That's not our space. Our space is news. Our space is spotlight. Tell the story, inform, educate, and speak truth to power.
Yeah.
And that is our duty. So the public, without the public, they say that democracy will die in darkness. So we have a duty to hold the candle and spotlight that democracy is being served, practiced, and
So let me ask you, both sides, how can they operate harmoniously? Because for us, as you've said, we speak truth to the power. The 5 W's and 1 H will remain constant in our training. And we all know this, when a dog bites a man and when a man bites a dog. So where do we balance so that nobody is injured or caught in the crossfire?
The first thing is Victor, is to know that we have to accept that the relationship between the state, the powers that be, and the media will always be adversarial. There will always be a point of disagreement, but disagree because we have different roles as we serve the public. We will do that. But there is also now a new discussion that is coming into play. Public interest, that is our duty. But again, even on our side, we have also to say, are we doing public interest journalism or journalism that interests the public? The two are different. Are you doing something to get the crowds, to get the clicks and everything else? Or are we doing something that is for public interest? So that is also another debate that we as professionals have to begin to interrogate. Public interest and interesting to the public. Those are two very interesting discussions that are now coming into this thing. Do I do something because I want to interest the public and pull crowds? Because we are all fighting for audiences, fighting for likes and all these clickbaits? Or are we doing something because this is a fact and we are spotlighting it? And
can we make it better between the two places? I mean, the media is here and the other side is on the other side. Can we make it better?
I think there's been an effort by especially remember the Kenya Editors Guild and other, through the Kenya Media Working Sector Group, where there's been engagement with the police, especially the police, because they're the first line people that we meet in any event, they're the ones who have a duty to maintain law and order. They're the visible face of that law and order enforcement. So we've had engagements, we've had people going to train to tell the police how the media operates, so that they understand our ecosystem and our operations.
Yeah.
People have gone to Kiganjo and interacted with the senior police officers, especially at the command level, so that the command level, in their training, in their interaction, in their deployment, they are telling people, media is not your enemy. Media operates like this. You play a facilitative role. So we have also done on our side, trained a lot of trainings on safety, on how do you operate, how do you cover hostile situations, how do you cover in crowded places, remain safe, get the story. So the training on both sides, there's been a lot of engagement.
Is it from KEG, MCK, or individual media houses?
All the media institutions have done a lot of, are trying to engage. But again, these engagements, the problem is that they are staccato. They come, they're not continuous. They must be having a continuous thing. This happens this time, it's no follow through with this kind of trainings and engagement. We need to have more deliberate steps and setups that allow the media themselves and these state agencies to define. Sometimes these reactions are born out of ignorance.
Okay, as we finalize, you've been on that desk for so many years. Can we avoid being biased and leaning on one side? They say newspaper X or Y least is biased.
A little bug.
Is it avoidable?
Yes, because a fact will always be fact. If there are facts and we follow your professional ethics, you'll bring out the facts. The fact, there's one thing unchanging thing. It's a fact and truth that will be told out. How you tell it is different. But the perception, but we now know that there are other variables that make for us to tell the fact in a different way. Entrepreneurial interests. Ownership, because the people who invest in media themselves, unfortunately in this country, the people who invest in media, most of them are politicians. They have political interests. So, and again, that makes the situation very murky. If they know X is leaning on this political formation and this political formation, already the suspicion begins to build. So media ownership, entrepreneurial interests, and then in the industry that expands, how do we begin to get more people to do what we call ethical fidelity, to adhere to it?
Thank you.
And that's very, very important on our part.
Asante sana.
Right.
You are the face behind Stephen Munyaho, the gentleman in Ugaibuni. In 30 seconds, everything is okay now?
We are very many of us, and I wish to say that Stephen's case is proceeding well. What is going through now is what we call the legal frameworks that are being unwound. This young man...
For the sake of people who do not know Stephen Munyaho, his story?
The young man has been incarcerated in Saudi for 14 years and was on death row. And he was hung because out of an altercation, an accidental thing that his friend died, and then he was convicted. But we are given an option to raise blood money to secure his release. That money was paid, and now we are in the process of bringing him back home.
Soon he'll be back home.
We hope that we'll see him back home.
Thank you. Ken Bosiri. Asante sana. Ken Bosiri is consulting and training editor. Today we just talk about media and politics. Where do we draw the professional line? We've been facing a lot of fireworks from the other side of the political class, and I think that is going to go a long way in helping to shape that. All right, let's take a break. But we come back. I want to talk about things to do with accreditation, and today I want to talk about Kenya Accreditation Service, which will be happening next week, marking World Accreditation Day. That is WAD on Monday, and the theme will be enabling SMEs through accreditation. Stick around for that. That is coming up shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Something doesn't add up.
So go get Fiona.
Why would mom up and leave and not tell me nor Musa? and go to the south coast and be silent. Are you sure she didn't tell you anything?
When will you ever own a compound of your own with a mansion, a parking lot inside, and a swimming pool? Man suffer from pulmonary microscopic silica volcanosis, blabberwas to my own house.
Do you even know what you're saying?
He threatened me. He must be fired.
Mark, I'm not your wife or your house help to be sending me around.
Yeah.
Auntie, I'm old enough kuwa naambiwa vitu zingine.
That's true, but I'm not in the position to do so. And nilikuwa tunaropokwa.
You don't just say things, Auntie Jane.
Ndamwambiaje Musa mamake hayuko na hata mimi mwenyewe sijui mahali yuko.
The men and women in boots. They are commanded to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall.
Laziness. It is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy and Joey.
I am not buying anything from you. I don't want to see you at J&J, and I do not want to see you in my compound. Do you understand?
Yeah, don't think Kathy is ready for God.
Come on, stop judging her. Give her time.
She's distracted, Sana.
She's not in Nairobi.
What do you mean she's out of Nairobi? You will get me Rose, then we'll have your issue back.
Okay, I just want you to listen and listen to me very carefully.
Why?
Yeah, I want you to act cool in front of Kathy, okay?
Nikusaidie na nini?
Naenda kwa nyumba ya mama Ruth kufanya nini?
Mimi nimetumwa files, nataka tu kuchukua files hapa na niende job.
Something doesn't add up.
So go get Fiona.
Why would mom up and leave and not tell me nor Musa and go to the south coast and be silent? Are you sure she didn't tell you anything?
When will you ever own a compound of your own with a mansion, a parking lot inside, and a swimming pool? Man suffer from pulmonary microscopic silica volcanosis, blabberwas to my own house.
Do you even know what you're saying?
He threatened me. He must be fired.
Mark, I'm not your wife or your house help to be sending me around.
Yeah.
Auntie, I'm old enough kuwa naambiwa vitu zingine.
That's true, but I'm not in the position to do so. And nilikuwa tunaropokwa.
You don't just say things, Auntie Jane.
Ndamwambiaje Musa mamake hayuko na hata mimi mwenyewe sijui mahali yuko.
And welcome back. Now, let's talk about SMEs and accreditation. If you are not accredited, then you're not allowed to do anything. I am accredited by the Media Council of Kenya. That's why I'm here. Are you accredited to do business? The silence in the studio. Everybody is guilty. I know. All right. Welcome back. My name is Victor Lowe. In studio, I have got two great minds, and I want us to talk about accreditation, what is happening in the country, and of course, the importance of you being accredited as an SME, and of course as a Kenyan, for you to be accredited, because you are going to land into problems with the government if you're not accredited. I have got Felice Tanyakoi, who is the manager, training testing laboratory schemes, KENAS. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And Stanislaus Masinza, he is a manager, calibration laboratories, KENAS, also in studio. Asante sana for coming.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. Basically, what is the real importance of accreditation? Let me start with you. For buyers, ladies first, right? Okay. Today being a Wednesday, let's start with her. What is the importance of getting accredited?
The importance of being accredited,
yes, as an SME.
As an SME,
yes,
is something that cannot be underestimated. Accreditation will enable you to access markets, to be able to gain consumer confidence about the products that you're putting into the market, and to be able to grow, because most people now will be able to trust that whatever it is, whether it's a service or a product that you're putting in the market, is something that can be relied upon, and it meets the international standards that are required. Yes.
Does it mean that we have got so many outlets there, or businesses out there, which are not accredited, and they are giving services to Wanjiko, who probably is not aware that they're not supposed to buy certain products from certain outlets which are not accredited?
Well, in the issue of accreditation, mostly we are dealing with conformity assessment bodies. Let me just say that. These are, for example, laboratories, certification bodies, and inspection bodies. So for laboratories, those are the ones that test the products to ensure that they meet the requirements, both nationally and international requirements. So when these entities which perform these tests, if they don't perform the test properly, it means that there is a risk of there being non-complying products that can cause harm to consumers. Yes.
Okay. And so, you know, we have got development goals in our country, and we have got the bottom-up economic transformative agenda of the government. So through accreditation, how will it spur economic growth? Stanlos.
Thank you, Victor. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning.
Accreditation, as mentioned by my colleague, is a passport to do business, whether it's local or international. For SMEs, the challenge has been how to penetrate markets locally as well as internationally. Accreditation gives that assurance, that extra assurance, that the product, the service, or the processes of an SME are meeting requirements.
Yes.
And the requirements can come from legal requirements, can come from international standards, can come from industry requirements, can come from customer requirements. So that demonstration that an SME is competent, it is capable, it is giving safe products, its services are meeting requirements that are internationally recognized, is achieved through accreditation.
Okay, so we are under Vision 2030. Where are we in as far as accreditation is concerned? Are we doing better, or we are still behind schedule?
We are doing very much better, because now accreditation is like a household name in Kenya. Many people know about accreditation as compared to maybe a decade ago when it looked like a very strange term. But for now, many people and many producers, many manufacturers, whether small, micro enterprises or even big industries, now they know the importance. Because for you to be able to meet the requirements of the international markets or domestic markets, then your products must comply to requirements. For you to be able to access even the international market, they will not accept your goods if they're not meeting requirements. So it's important that the providers you use to give you that assurance are actually competent. They're able to do and give you a result which can be relied on, can be trusted. Now, with accreditation coming in and the Kenya Accreditation Service, maybe what we have to say is that we are internationally recognized as a provider of accreditation, meaning that if we accredit you, the reports that come from you that you're going to use as a basis to trade, they'll be accepted internationally without any further testing, inspection, or certification. So because of that, people have seen the importance of this accreditation, and now it's becoming a household name. Yes.
Okay, because somebody say, "Tatumia tu njia zangu, usijali, hii ni Kenya." But just to run away from that notion of hii ni Kenya, we can run away with it, you know, we can go through some backdoor and get accredited. How does one certify that one person, you are fully compliant and, you know, rightfully accredited? Is there a seal of security or something? Stanislaus?
Yes, to be accredited means there must be a formal document, which is issued by KENAS, to indicate that your organization, your SME, that is involved in testing, in calibration, in inspection, in certification, has been evaluated.
How would one differentiate between a fake one and a genuine one?
KENAS has a website which lists those what we call conformity assessment bodies, the ones who are doing inspection, and they are SME in nature, that have been evaluated against requirements. And I hasten to add international requirements that they are equivalent to any other SME or any other accredited CAB worldwide. Let me give you an example of how an SME aids you. When you are coming to work today, you drove into probably a gas station. You checked your tire pressure. Why is it important? And when you go to that tire pressure machine, how would you be sure that you're putting in the figure that you chose, whether it's 35 psi or 40 psi? It has a bearing on the risk that you were to encounter should you have driven on the road at the speeds you drove without having checked it. The risk of an accident and the consequences that go with it. When you go to hospital, whether it's a clinic in the village or a major hospital, you go through some triage where they take measurements regarding your temperature, your pressure, and that involves, or rather informs, the clinical decisions that will be made, whether you are sick or there is something that they need to investigate. So it is that serious that the public requires the best. If I give another example regarding buses, we have an arrangement with a regulator called the National Transport and Safety Authority. Together with the KEBS, the standards body, a standard was developed called KS 372 for bus bodies. If you remember, we have many road accidents where the vehicle becomes dismembered, particularly buses, and the members within those dismembered parts are the ones that cause deaths. So using this element of accreditation, NTSA has successfully ensured that all the buses that are built are actually meeting that standard. That means the safety aspect. Second, saving of lives. Thirdly, saving of the scarce resources we have in this country.
Let's talk about the issue to do with financing and access to market, because that's one of the biggest issues. And you're accredited, but how does accreditation enable someone to access the market and financing?
Okay, you know, when you actually are an entrepreneur, you've started your small and micro enterprise, and what you require is that you need for this enterprise of yours to grow. And for it to grow, of course, there has to be capital. Yeah, there has to be capital, there has to be goodwill, there has to be people to buy your products as such. So accreditation does not directly influence how you get your capital. But what happens is that as people are confident about the products that you're selling, then of course there'll be repeat customers, you'll have a good name, and you get more business, okay? As opposed to on the converse, where people take your products and maybe they get sick, okay? They don't meet requirements. Things do not work the way they should. Then, of course, there's the other consequences of that. You get a bad name, you can be sued, you have economic losses, and that means that business will fail. Yeah. So it's a supporter of the business.
Just a curious question. You know, viewers can be funny. Who can, or what can I accredit? Shoemaker, mtu wa kushona nguo? You know, Kenyans are just be curious out of it. Or because when you talk about SMEs, who do you accredit?
Okay, you know, SMEs, when we are talking about SMEs, we are talking about small enterprises which have little capital. And these small enterprises are not just in Juakali, they're in all sectors of the economy, including in agriculture, in medical, in safety equipment, in inspection. They're small enterprises. So they're in all sectors of the economy and not just in a small sector. Now, what we accredit is actually not an enterprise that we have accredited, maybe Mwaura and Company, you know? That's not what we do. What we accredit is the other system that assures that that product that Mwaura is putting in the market is meeting requirements. And which system is this? This system can either be a laboratory, because Mwaura must go and test his product in a laboratory to ensure that it is meeting a requirement. And usually, as my colleague has said, the requirement can either be a standard. Like we know in Kenya, we have something called the Kenya standards, which are developed under the guidance of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. So the standards are there, and specifications which say this product must meet this requirement. So Mwaura must go and test his footwear or whatever it is he's producing in a laboratory to ensure that it is meeting that requirement. Then he's able to put it in the market. When we look at the products in the market right now, all the products are required to have something called a standardization mark. Okay? This standardization mark is given by Kenya Bureau of Standards. You cannot sell your products in the market without that mark. Now, for you to be able to sell the products, you must meet the requirements. And this is through testing. You have to test and ensure. Now, there are other SMEs, for example, food outlets. They must be inspected, maybe by the county governments. So there's an inspection angle. If you're having a building and you're building something and maybe you want to rent out, this building must be inspected by the county government. Now, what is that inspection procedure? Is that inspection procedure able to be able to give you a good result so that people say this building is actually safe? It's not going to collapse, it's not going to do all that, okay? If you go to a small lab in the village, for example, there's a time when you could go to a hospital and all the results you get, either you have typhoid or something else, isn't it? Maybe they never used to test. We know that a health outcome is brought about by good treatment. The doctor can just suspect that you, based on the symptoms you have said, that you are suffering from malaria, but he has to confirm through a laboratory test. Now, if the laboratory does not test, it means the doctor will not treat you the way you are supposed to be treated.
Absolutely. That's conclusive. I like that. So what is the procedure? If someone wants to get accredited as chancellors, what's the procedure like? What should I have? Requirements for me to be fully accredited as an SME?
Thank you for that. That's important because we as Kenyans are created as an accreditation body to facilitate trades. So the simplest process of getting accredited is applying for it. And when an application comes in a prescribed manner.
What's the turnaround time if one does an application?
The application is acknowledged within 24 hours.
Okay.
So within, say, 1 day, 1 day and a half, you have an acknowledgement that we have received your application, and if it has any additional requirements that you may not have understood at the beginning, we inform you of what they are, have a discussion with you to guide you through the process. We are open as a public enterprise. We don't have timelines like 8 to 5. Anytime you can be able to write online. It is online.
Okay.
Secondly, once an application is received, we evaluate it to be able to understand your sector and sector requirements. We're able to carry out a review of your documentation. You have to give us something that shows what you do. So we have to evaluate it against requirements and be able to give you a report on whether it meets or does not meet requirements. The third step is definitely to come on site. To have a discussion with you.
That was my next question. That do you visit an enterprise? If I run a food court, for example, or food manufacturing plant, do you pay a physical visit to do an inspection?
It is not actually an inspection. It is a visit to be able to assess. We call it assessment. We come to discuss with you, confirm your practice against what you have written. Confirm the competence of the people. Look at the equipment you're using. Look at your environmental conditions. Look at the methods that you're using. Look at generally how you meet legal and other requirements, including customer requirements, so that we give that assurance. Accreditation is meant to give the assurance, and an assurance cannot be given remotely. It is an interactive process. Not everything may be in place, and therefore we will give you a time period to be able to make corrections and corrective actions, so that that forms the basis for us to make a decision on whether you have met requirements or not. Remember, like my colleague said, once we give or grant accreditation, it is a passport to the world.
Yes.
That test certificate, that inspection report, that calibration certificate that you give is accepted worldwide without question. And that's why the government of Kenya, in its wisdom, has established KENAS and made accreditation mandatory as we speak. Yes.
What are some of the achievements over the years? Because the government deeply depends on you to give the best to the international market and even locally. So what are some of the achievements? Let me start with you again, because your mic is still on.
We have achieved a lot.
Right.
KENAS was initially established through a legal notice as an accreditation body, and somewhere in 2009. But that doesn't mean that accreditation started in 2009. It started way back in 1984. It's just that it was a department within KEBS. And to be able to ensure its independence, the government has facilitated the re-establishment of KENAS through an act of parliament, the Kenya Accreditation Service Act. It has also given resources in terms of facilities and personnel to be able to make KENAS visible as well as capable of undertaking its mandate. So far, we have accredited over 270 firms that are involved in all sectors, be they certification, be they calibration, be they testing, be they verification and validation. We are responsible, for example, for ensuring that incompetent practices are actually frowned upon by industry. To explain it in a nutshell is that industry relies on services, whether it's SME or even a multinational. They require to have a demonstration that their inputs meet requirements in order for their outputs to also meet requirements. They also require demonstration that their process is fine, so the final product needs to be tested or inspected, as it were, to be able to determine if it meets requirements.
Yes.
So we've made strides. In December last year, Parliament passed a law, the Business Laws Amendment Act, which actually mandated accreditation. It amended, for example, the Standards Act and gave recognition to accreditation as an enabler of business. Kenya cannot claim to play on its own. It is playing on the international stage. So requirements of safety, requirements of quality are universal. Kenyans require the same quality products, the same as those consumed elsewhere. And also, our enterprises are producing for export. And we need to demonstrate to the world that we are actually meeting the same requirements in the economy.
Okay, Felisa, you want to add something on that?
Yes, we have made a lot of, as my colleague has said, we have made a lot of progress. KENAS, as of 2017, is internationally recognized. The services that we provide are internationally recognized, meaning even the people who receive our services are also recognized. Their certificates, their certifications are acceptable. And based on that, as he has said, we have accredited more than 270 organizations in different areas and in different sectors of the economy, including the energy sector, transport, health and safety, in agriculture, in national security, and all that. So we've also spread our services to over 8 countries, including the Gambia, in Ghana, in Sudan, South Sudan.
With the headquarters being in Kenya?
Yes, we do from here. We are now accrediting in Eritrea. We have accredited many laboratories and other bodies in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Rwanda, DR Congo. So we are now spreading over in the region, because where we are accrediting, you find that in these countries they don't have accreditation bodies, and sometimes the market requires
that is a big challenge, because we don't have an open market yet.
Yes. So the market requires that you have to be accredited. So you find these countries, for example, Uganda. Let me just give an example of Uganda. Uganda is very big on coffee. So their coffee is being exported to international markets, and they want them to ensure that the labs that are testing that coffee are accredited by a signatory to the international arrangements, like Kenya, for example. Uganda does not have, it has an accreditation body, but now it's just in the formative stages.
So what happens when there's a disparity in testing and calibration and now accreditation? For example, from one jurisdiction, Kenya, Congo, go to, what happens?
So, accreditation actually gives a level playing field.
Yes.
Because the standards are the same. When we say it's a kilo here in Kenya, it should be a kilo in DRC, it should be a kilo in, because they are all related to the international systems of measurement. So because of that, and because we have standards, and we have ways in which we do, using the technical experts and all that, we are able to sort of standardize the practice. So there is not much, conflicts that would come in. In Kenya, you have seen in several times people are conflicting about test results, about quality of a product. But we just want to tell people that in case of this kind of issues, it is only Kenyans that can actually solve these problems.
I see. Okay. So you can get a credit, for example, let me just give, KEBS has a role to play.
Yes.
Kenas also has a role to play.
Yes.
So which is more superior? Senseless.
Indeed, Victor, it's not about superiority. We complement each other.
Great.
KEBS is the national standards body that coordinates development of standards. And inside it also has a National Metrology Institute that helps us as a country to safeguard our measurement system by offering traceability to international standards. Like my colleague mentioned, the kilo in KEBS is actually traceable to the international kilo. So everybody is tracing to the same place, and therefore removing those disparities. We are not superior, or neither are they superior. We are complementary.
Great.
There are some aspects of KEBS work that we accredit, for example, because they are conformity assessments. They are either testing or calibration or inspection or certification.
So there's a constant communication between the two of you.
Exactly.
Great. What are some of the challenges? Because at the end of the day, lazima kutakuwa na shida mahali. I mean, there's an uptake of the service, awareness. Do you face some of the challenges?
Yes, maybe I'll start. Some of the biggest challenge is visibility.
We are here.
That's why we're here. Visibility, because government, in its wisdom, creates organizations, but if we are not visible, the public, for example, the SME that we are addressing today, may not be able to know how to access the service or how valuable the service is. Just like any enterprise, there is the element of outreach, being able to sensitize those that are particularly affected by a particular service, like the ones we provide. We also have the challenge of probably understanding, unpacking accreditation. And that's why we're on this show and many other shows, to be able to explain that we are an enterprise that has been set up by government to aid trade, to level the playing field locally and internationally, to be able to remove incompetent services, such as the ones we mentioned regarding accidents, regarding damage to our roads through axle load, monitoring. I believe you've seen these days the roads aren't damaged as they were before. You construct a road and in 6 months, it's already having gullies because of the overloading and stuff like that. So we work with Kenha, who have actually given the way bridges to private enterprises, but on condition that they are accredited. And we do the surveillance to make sure that the services they are offering are actually credible. So we have challenges, and maybe my colleague can add something.
Okay.
We have enough challenges.
All right. Felisa, even as you add on that, you can also tell me, I mean, the importance of the World Accreditation Day that Kenya is also part and parcel of that you're celebrating next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
The World Accreditation Day is a global call for action in terms of accreditation. It is actually started by the International Accreditation Forum and the International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation to spread the gospel of accreditation in the world. Yeah, so it's a day when we come together as accreditation stakeholders, as accreditation, as regulators, as the public, as government, to be able to see what are the gains that accreditation can give, and what is the role that each of the players play in that scenario. So every year we celebrate our World Accreditation Day on 9th of June, and every year there are different themes that come. Sometimes it is accreditation, encouraging good practices, and accreditation, ensuring safe food or safe water. So for this time we are talking about SMEs. And we want to bring them up and to tell them that you are not just some players who are just playing on the sides. You are actually critical in the economic transformation of this country, and you are very critical in ensuring that industrialization is actually growing, providing jobs to people, providing good products, being able to get foreign exchange through export of your products. So we are trying to encourage.
And it's an open function.
Yes, it's an open function.
Venue?
The venue, it's online. Yeah, it's online. This year, what we are doing is that we are having our assessors. Our assessors are the technical experts who go out to assess those people who apply to us. So we are having a forum for them, which we will be discussing our issues. But on the next day, which will be June 10th, we are going to have a pre-conference for the International Accreditation Conference, which we are going to host.
You can talk about that and the importance of that pre-conference.
In November of this year. So the pre-conference will just be setting the stage and bringing stakeholders close. They know what we are planning to do. Now, this conference is a game changer. It's one of its kind in the world. I don't think anyone has ever held this. So we are actually breaking new grounds and looking into new territories and telling people that we are here in Kenya. This is Kenya Accreditation Service, and we are going to host this event to bring stakeholders together to discuss the various issues that have to do with accreditation, how to promote accreditation to ensure health and safety, to ensure environmental sustainability, to ensure customer protection, consumer protection, to ensure breaking into new markets, to look at the digital transformation, the industrial revolutions we have. We are now in the 4th industrial revolution, although someone told me we are well into the 5th. But now this is a revolution which is taking, which is dealing with artificial intelligence, data management, blockchain technologies, you know. So how is this now going to affect us as a country, as an accreditation body, and as accreditation bodies in the world? In this practice, how are we ready for this kind of transformation? How are we using it to be able to give solutions that will solve the problems of the public? We are happy to say that in Kenya, for example, we have one lab. I don't know whether I should mention it, but we have a lab which is using robotics.
Oh, really?
And yes, we and it's one of a kind that you just put your samples. It's here. It's in Kenya, in Nairobi, in Upper Hill.
Tell me, I would love to visit it. What's the name of that place?
The lab is called Dr. Kalebi Lab, DKL Laboratory, and you find that they have harnessed technology to be able to give the best service that can be given. You bring the sample, you wait for the results at the very end. So these are the kind of things we are seeing. How can we now use them in accreditation? So you can see there are various things that are happening that as stakeholders, we must come together to create this dialogue, to talk about accreditation, how it will help us. Yeah.
Okay. Very quickly, Stanislaus, what are some of the partners that you're working with? I mean, you are not an island.
Indeed, we have many partners. Let me start internationally. Our main partner is International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation and International Accreditation Forum. International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation gives us recognition. Actually, indeed, it is responsible for managing the conformity assessment world. It also works in partnership with the WTO to make accreditation a basis for decision-making in business. Locally, the government of Kenya, because we are a creation of the government of Kenya, who is our greatest partner and, of course, a source of the resources that we use, public resources, to be able to offer this service. In the absence of Kenas, other bodies would come from South Africa, from UK, from any other economy to come and carry out the same mandate here. And that means we will actually be exporting our scarce resources by paying those bodies. So the government lowered the cost of doing business by actually establishing a local body which would evaluate and accredit on the basis of the same requirements that the other bodies would.
Let me cut you there and ask you a question. So what is your final word as we come to World Accreditation Day? I will be there. Online, right? There'll be a link?
There'll be a link online, and we are going to put it in our social media pages, so you can always go there and see the link and join us in this celebration. Yeah,
it's open. Please, let's get there and participate as an SME, an upcoming SME. Please join. You will learn a lot. I'm so sure we'll learn a lot, because at the end of the day, you need to prosper in your business. Final word?
The final word is...
1 minute each.
Okay. Well, first, quality is not an act. It is a habit. So if we are in the habit of creating products that meet requirements, then we shall ensure the lives of Kenyans, ensure that the customers that we serve actually get value for money. So Kenya stands ready and willing to partner with SMEs and any other enterprise that is interested in getting accredited. In fact, like I said, it is mandatory that you need to get accredited. But we don't come there to bulldoze you. We will work with you, we will aid you, we will support you on the process on how to get accredited and give you the requirements. I invite everyone, SMEs and other Kenyans, to visit our website, www.kenas.go.ke. And our social media pages at Kenas, you will be able to find a lot of information about our activities, like the upcoming activities and others that we undertake.
Thank you. Can I just close up that?
Yes.
Final word, 20 seconds, for gender parity again. Okay.
So Karibuni Kenas, we are here ready for you, competent to be able to provide the service that you need. Feel free to always come and talk to us. As you said, visit our website, visit our social media pages. Sometimes accreditation message might look a bit complicated, but it's very simple. So you are all welcome, and Kenas is ready to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante sana. We've been talking about enabling SMEs through accreditation. Accreditation in Kenya is an important role in as far as spurring your business is concerned. And we're speaking to Felista Nyako, who is a manager, testing laboratories schemes, Kenas, and Stanislaus Masinza, who is a manager, calibration laboratories and Kenas. Please go ahead and get accredited. Remember, quality is not an act, it's a habit. I like that. In everything we do in life, right?
Yes.
Quality is an act, not a it's not an act, it's a habit.
Yes.
All right, that's where we wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Victor. Bye-bye.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tonight, here the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima,
tutamfuga inzi chuma kisha tumlishe kwa kuku.
Tutaelekea huko JKUAT katika kitengo cha wadudu, tujifunze mengi kuhusu nyenje.
Hakuna kustuka tena ati hii ni nini? So sasa tunaangalia at industrialization. This is now going industrial scale.
Ungana nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 kwenye mseto kamili wa kilimo
hapa KBC Channel 1.
All right, the conversation right here on Good Morning Kenya continues, and now right on this buffet we serve yet another serving of the saving dynamics. That is what we are focusing on right about now. My name is Mike Migwen. In studio I'm joined by Elizabeth Nkuku, who is a seasoned finance and investment professional. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing this morning?
Super, I'm doing great.
Yes. Now, let's start from a statistical kind of a context. The national saving rate stood at 12%, which is 5% lower than the continental rate, which is 17%. And we are talking about the saving dynamics. What do you think is contributing to this decline?
So thank you so much for that great question. And as a country, when you think about how we have been brought up,
yes,
how we have been educated in the past, it has largely been about go to school, make money, use the money, and live.
Yeah.
And I think with the current social media, almost like push, doesn't make it better for anyone. So I honestly think that the savings conversation, there are two things to it. One of them is the education background. Financial literacy doesn't come naturally for most people. Yet, when you go to the basic of it, and I keep using my mother as an example when I talk about savings investments, they had a way of making things work out, but not in the context of formal savings. They knew that I am going to this potato is going to go to XYZ goal. And this is going to... So they used to plan their lives in a very different way.
Yeah.
In a country whereby we are still very rural in a way, that still comes in, but you never get those statistics really recorded anywhere. There could be savings, but the savings is in a different manner. But now for the educated people, financial literacy took a backseat. We learned compound interests for mathematics passing, not that it can change your life. not that it can be used to change your investment. So those are some of the things. And now if you look at the other little attribution would be just the fact that the employment rate is not that. There's a couple of people who are not employed, not making a gainful income, and that could have contributed to that rate.
Yes. Now, you know, saving should be a culture, actually. But then again, what should be the main determinants of it?
The biggest determinant of savings is the amount of income that you make. That's the first part, because you can't save that which you don't have. But the second thing is, how do you make sure that you automatically save without thinking? So for most of us who are employed, we actually have the money come to our account and then we decide how do we distribute it. However, if that in situations that happens, the moment the money lands into your account and you have to start thinking about what happens, we end up doing everything else other than saving. So how can we then go back and correct it? One of the things that we can do is actually savings at source. So that if, for example, you are salaried, can you be able to put a standing order? Can your cash for savings be deducted at source? I think when you think about the people who are members of a SACCO, they never debate whether that money goes to a SACCO or not. It has to go whether you have any emergency coming in. That money has gone. So the right rule is at least you need to take 10%, at least 10% of your income, put a standing order and let it go to either a savings account. And I would like us to maybe move it even further, savings, and then we go to investment. Because saving alone is not enough. Because yes, it gives you it gives you the discipline, but doesn't make your money work for you. So if you put your savings in a savings bank account, you earn 3-4%. That is not even, it's actually inflation. You're just making your money remain at the same level. What happens when inflation gets to 7? You're actually losing money while saving. So we need to get into a culture of what are the right investment options that we need to. That way, you actually feel nice that, you know, I was investing and I got some money. I don't know whether you have ever met someone who has just received dividend from their SACCO. They feel like elated and they want to save more.
I've met some.
Yeah, so success, you see those little successes makes you even want to save more. So those are some of the things that we need to incorporate, that saving is important, but let me make my money work for me. Yeah.
So you can save to invest?
The first step is save and then invest. Yes.
What are these, the best investment options? Let's say if you're saving just to, say, start an investment. Where should someone start?
The starting point is things that you don't have to exercise your mind too much. You're not taking too much risk. So the best investments would be things like the pooled funds, the money market funds. And the reason why I believe that the money market fund is somewhere to start for anyone who is starting out is because you get to learn a lot. If, for example, you started your initial investments in crypto or Bitcoin, you might not understand the logic, the behind scene. But the beauty about the pooled funds, you are in a pool of many people, it's professionally managed, and you don't require a lot to start. So you learn as you go, even as you get to more sophistication. Yes.
You know, one of the things that is rampant within the country is the aspect of, especially with the ladies coming together for chamas, then there are SACCOs. Are there advantages to chamas as a saving option as opposed to SACCOs?
The answer is, when you think about a chama, it has two things. It's the financial and the social. Remember, we are social beings.
Yes.
And that maybe gives us the reason for being, you know, the reason for belonging. So there is a bit that chama gives, there's a bit that, or the void that it fills in our hearts that the chama can't. And when you think about investment, not everything is return related. There are things that you do because they're important to you. They might not make a return consideration. I'll give you an example. When you're looking at owning a home, do you look at owning a home as necessarily the rate of return that you get from that? The answer is no. Most of the time you'll own a home in a place that you like, even if it makes no commercial sense.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing with the chama. There are things that you will still remain in the chama because that is where you get fulfilling, that's where you share. But the question is, you can actually convert chamas to a great investment We have seen different individuals do that. They invest together, they put money together, and then together they come and say, what do you want to achieve? Do we come up with an investment policy statement? What will we do when this money gets here? Then how do we multiply it? So it's not one or the other. They can actually coexist, because the same chama can actually put money in the SACCO, can put money in the money market fund, can put money in land, and any business. Yes, so it's really an issue of how do we mix. So understanding the why are we coming together is key, is very important. Yeah.
You know, we're talking about savings, then investments, but all that kind of falls under the umbrella of financial literacy. Now, so far, what are the best strategies to enhance financial literacy, especially in rural areas of the country?
So, first of all, I want to start by saying financial literacy for most of us, we must do the work. We were not taught in school, so we must be willing to do the work. There is, however, people who are not even lucky to go to school. So they might not even know where to do their work from. So what I've seen, the government has also put in place a couple of institutions that help with finances, running institutions. If you think about some of the big institutions that give funds from the government side, talk about the youth fund, talk about MCR, the regulator of MSMEs, talk about the Hustler Fund, talk about all those funds. One of their mandates is really capacity building. So the question is, how do we make sure that we sensitize our people to know that the government actually has options that you can actually go and learn from? So I think it's really partnering with the people within in the ground, so that they know the help is there and actually can be accessed. And then we actually ask for it. Yes.
Is it possible to have as high a saving rate in the country, but given the economic times, but lower financial literacy?
I think you cannot have a significant. So let me take a step back.
Yes.
You cannot have a lot of money if your knowledge is low. You get, so they have to come together, because knowledge is the ability to make informed decisions, and it doesn't have to be textbook knowledge. There is just, again, I go back to the rural areas where people really invested and did things in a certain way, whether they went to school or not. I come from the Maasai community.
Yes,
those people invested in cows, in goats. Yeah, and they did it very well. For those who cared about building a legacy, they did. They necessarily didn't have to have formal education. So the thing is, when people are sold for a purpose, they will be able to save towards that. They will be able to educate themselves. So you cannot have a high savings rate without and showing people this is their why. Most people care about their why. So we need to show people the why and the how, so that they can be able to increase their savings and investment.
So saving must have a goal. You're not just saving for the sake of saving.
Yes, you can even be saving so that you're not poor. I'm just putting it as, but you have to have a drive, so that at least even when someone comes and tells you, give me this money, you have a reason to say no.
Yes.
Yes. So it's very, very important for us to understand what are our goals, and we have, even if we don't document them, we need to segment them somehow. They have to be ingrained in our minds.
Yes. Yes. But also we have to let them know that saving is not an investment.
Saving is not an investment. Saving is a culture to help you with the investment.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, there's in finance, there's the 72nd rule in finance. Maybe you can talk about it. What is it and what it entails?
So before I get to the 70, I want to take you back to compound interest.
Yes.
And simple interest.
Yes.
You remember us being told this is how 1 + I raised to the power of whatever, that's the income that you're going to get.
Yes.
And if you wanted to know how much you will be worth a year from today, this is how you can bring it to the present value today.
Yeah.
So that is the base of the 72 rule. So what it means is that how long will it take for you to double your money? So if, for example, I have 100 shillings, what rate of, with the next rate of return, so let's even take 10% rate of return, how long will it take it for me to double it? So if, for example, it's 100 shillings, I will double it and I'm earning 10%, it will take me 7 years to double that money. So it just needs to show you that I need to save more, I need to earn higher, so that I can double my money a little bit more, faster. The same case when it comes to expenses. If I have the expenses that, if I have this pot that I have left with my kids,
yes,
if it's not growing, how long will it take for them to deplete it?
Yes.
So again, if they're taking it at a rate of 10%, in 7 years they'll be broke. So if they need to know today that how long will it take me to get either financially ruined or how long it will take me to multiply my money. So let me bring it back home. How can we use it today?
Exactly.
I am earning 50,000 shillings. If I'm earning 50,000 shillings, I say that I will be saving 10% of that income anytime. That is 5,000 every month. So the compounding effect means that every month I'm putting 5,000, and that 5,000 is actually earning 10%. So as I save, if I save 5,000 in January, the value of that 5,000 at the end of the year will be an extra 10%. Yeah?
Yes.
That is 5,050 shillings,
yes.
right? If I continue doing that, then I will compound that money in a very short period of time. So you need to understand that I need to start today with my 5,000, put a standing order, and I'm really saying a standing order because the moment you don't put a standing order, imagine we shall call you and we shall go have sherehe, and that 5,000 is gone anyway. So you'll end up at the same position.
Yes.
So it's better you put a standing order so we don't have to call you. When you call you, we'll tell you, I don't have money.
Yes.
Yeah. So put that 5,000, put a standing order every month, and let it grow. Yes.
Nice. Now, you know, we are living in a technologically advanced age where we have financial tools and technology. My question here would be the aspect of mobile banking. How do you think has impacted the aspect of saving within the country?
I go back to financial literacy. Sorry, I'll keep bringing it back there.
Yes.
One of the things that has done very well is actually digital financing, fintech. It has made our lives very easy. I can't remember the last time I was in the banking hall. Things just flow. So that makes it very easy for me to invest my money and to actually withdraw my money. So I have to be very disciplined so that I don't take that money that was meant for investments for my consumption. So we need to make sure that people are able to create systems around themselves that can help. What has happened in the investment industry, people are actually allowed to guard against themselves. What I mean by that is that once I put this 50,000 here, I can actually tell my fund manager, please don't allow me to take this money until 6 months are over. So they'll put what is called a guard. So that helps you. So technology is good, but if you can't help yourself, technology can also help you help yourself. That's on one end. On the other end, digital or fintech has made it very easy for us to take loans. We would be seated somewhere and we just say, let me just try. Actually, I would maybe explain it to you. There's a guy I always meet at Parklands.
Yes.
We always talk about Hustler Fund. He's like, and he's always telling everybody, have you taken money from the Hustler Fund? So it becomes very easy for you to get lured into such conversation.
Yes.
So we need to be sure that this money that I'm taking, what am I doing with it? Because it's not free. And by the time you are dialing to take that money, let it not be for consumption. Occasionally, most of the time, we take that money maybe when we are not in a very good state of mind. So we end up using that money not in the right way.
Yes.
So it has made it easy, but let's catch ourselves so that it becomes, we don't push ourselves into that ditch. And I would like, again, before we even get out of that, do you know how expensive it is to borrow from the digital loans? On average, it's 7% per month. I was looking at, if it's 7% per month, multiply that by 12.
Wow.
That is expensive. You cannot get a return. No business will give you that kind of return, I can tell you.
Yes.
So even as we get into the digital loans, it is convenient, but at what cost are we robbing our future? So we need to be very careful about it.
Has it enhanced financial discipline in any way?
It has not enhanced. It has enhanced financial convenience, but made it worse in terms of financial discipline and in terms of ability to save for our future. Yes.
You know, there are people who use informal saving methods. Money under the mattress, you know, pesa unaeka mahali. Should this be discouraged?
Completely, because it's not growing. If you put 100,000 under your mattress, you'll be lucky if there's no fire, if you live in a place where it can catch fire, and you'll be lucky that you just have the 100,000, isn't it? Whereas you can just walk into a bank, walk into a fund manager, and you put that money. If you don't need it for a year, you put 100,000, you'll have an extra 10,000 at the end of the year. That's something which you can do something with it.
Is there disparity, or are there difference in terms of saving habits between demographics, the young people and adults?
Yes, the way we view money is very different. The older generation would want a lot of a lot of security. They want to associate money with security. The young people look at it in terms of options. So that way, they will invest and put their money in to give them more and more options. Yes.
So there's some sense of there are people who look for instant gratification with money as opposed to saving. All right. You know, this is a conversation that keeps on continuing. But then again, who is supposed to carry out this financial literacy?
I think it's the role of different stakeholders. And by stakeholders is if you're making money out of making money from others, then it's your role.
Yes.
So the banking sector, the MFIs, the churches need to, it's important. You can, I keep saying you cannot be a good church person if you're not good with money. Because how do you tithe if you have no money?
Yeah.
So we need to take it upon ourselves to make sure that we are looking at holistically.
Yeah.
It is you cannot be a good mother if you have no money. So family comes in. So when it comes to money, it's the role of all of us. In as much as we want to learn from, to shift the blame to someone else, it starts with us very closely. Then when it comes to now the national conversation, the government has a role and actually has put in structures to be able to train people. So it is very, very important that we see that way. And the government is putting in, but the question is, are you ready to be helped? So we need to also get out there and say, I am here and I need this support.
Indeed. Thank you so much for making time to come and talk about matters to do with the saving dynamics. And the question posed here is, are you ready to be helped? Thank you so much. That is Elizabeth Nkuku, who is a seasoned finance and investment professional, speaking to us about saving dynamics within the country. This is where this conversation ends, but don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly. We are looking at the special needs education. Stay with us.
Something doesn't add up.
Sikugeti Fiona.
Why would mom up and leave and not tell me nor Musa and go to the south coast and be silent? Are you sure she didn't tell you anything?
When will you ever own a compound of your own with a mansion, a parking lot inside, and a swimming pool? Man suffer from pneumonia microscopic silicovolcanosis, blabberwas to my own house.
Do you even know what you're saying?
He threatened me. He must be fired.
Mark, I'm not your wife or your house help to be sending me around.
Yeah.
Auntie, I'm old enough kuwa naambiwa vitu zingine.
That's true, but I'm not in the position to do so. And nilikuwa tunaropokwa.
You don't just say things, Auntie Jane.
Ndamwambiaje Musa mamake hayuko, na hata mimi mwenyewe sijui mahali yuko.
Kanipaka mafuta halafu akaniambia niziepuse na saitani.
Na ukakubali?
Si hiyo nitakubali. Wewe unaweza kataa masani.
Wewe.
Paka mafuta
Wewe sikia.
Kwani alikuwa akipakwa mafuta akipigwa.
Sasa si vile nilisikia ati anatolewa mapepo.
Ulipakwa mafuta mwili mzima?
Mwili mzima. Na nikaambiwa nisioge mpaka maombi ifike mbinguni.
Kawera.
Yes.
Uliingia hiyo kanisa? Ndio unitoe sapiu.
Wewe.
Ukampaka mafuta. Huyo ni mama.
Which side in the Pacific?
Wewe.
Kila kona.
The men and women in boats. They are commanded to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall.
Laziness, it is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy Njoe.
You're just in time for yet another conversation right here on Good Morning Kenya. We're talking about the special needs education, and in studio I'm joined by Dr. Apostle James Nthega, who is Director of Triumph School in Christ in Embu County. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well.
Karibu sana. Now, special needs education. Before we even look at its evolvement, how it has evolved, when we talk about special needs education, what are we looking at?
When you talk about special needs education, we are looking at providing learning that requires some special support to some learners who are enabled differently from what we call the general learners.
Yes.
Yes.
How can you say the special needs education in the country has evolved over the years?
Well, what I can say is that quite much has been done this far,
yes,
because there is quite some creating of awareness about special needs in our education system. But I would also say, like, there is still very many people who are not aware about special needs. And when they think, when people think about special needs, they think about people who are, or learners who are in very extreme levels, maybe to a level whereby people think no intervention can be done.
Yes.
But we find that in what we call the ordinary or general schools, there are so many learners who actually need some special support to be able to operate with the competencies that they have that are different from the general learners.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, when you hear about education, the first thing that pops in mind is just school from a general perspective.
Yes.
But there are types of institutions that offer special needs education.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk about them.
Okay, when you talk about the institutions that offer special needs education, we are saying that there are institutions that have come with some specified intervention. That means that the people who are providing the educational services, for instance, the teachers, they have undergone some training so that they have some skills to be able to intervene in some areas which learners cannot be helped just in a normal ordinary class. Yes.
And currently, with the introduction of CBC, how do you think it has impacted the special needs education?
First of all, I would want to say that I really appreciate that we have gone to CBC, that is competency-based education. Because before, our education system was mainly, let's say, knowledge-based.
Actually, it has gravitated to competence-based education and training.
Yes. So now talking about competency-based education, then it means that we are not just focusing on knowledge. We are actually focusing on the skills or the competencies that the learners can have. And that's why we say, even before we had come to that, for example, I would say, like, when I was in school myself, in high school, I was taught by a teacher, CRI, who was bright. And a subject would perform very well, like 98 to 100% performance. Now, that teacher, really, Mike could not see like we see. but he was able to communicate to us without necessarily writing. So you see, that teacher is enabled in a different way, and he could still instill knowledge to us. So that means that we can't just narrow down education into just writing and seeing and getting an A in, in academics. There are some learners or students that are very good in other areas, and that's why I appreciate the approach of CBE, because in CBE we are looking at the competency. So what are we saying? We're saying that we need to identify the competencies in some of the learners which we thought were disadvantaged. But in the real sense, they are not disadvantaged. They are enabled in a different way.
Do you think there was some sort of, prior to now, there was some sort of stigma surrounding kids with special needs when it came to them joining school?
Not that it was there, even now. It's actually there. Because as you interact even with the parents and the community, you still find that some people kind of want to even hide them.
Yes.
Some of them, as we talk, are not yet actually in schools. I made to understand, even when you go to now to the school population, you may find actually even the general schools, like 10 to 11%, they are learners with special needs.
Yes. But
they are just there in the classrooms, but not being given some special attention, so that they can enhance their competence.
Yes.
So the stigma has been there, and it is still there, and that's why I come here to advocate for actually making the people understand that we need to see these learners and these people in a different way. They are not disadvantaged at all. They are only enabled in a different way. If we can be able to go into their abilities and bring them out, you'll be amazed by what they will be able to do. They may not write like I may write, but they may actually be able to understand what we are saying, and that can be decoded into something that can be written.
Yes.
I'll give an example. Recently, I just interacted with a parent who has a child with special needs in our school.
Yes.
And the son told the parent that, Mom, I'm not able to write very well. But what the teacher said, I got it. It's in my mind. So what are we saying? If the child has a challenge in writing, does it mean that that child cannot communicate? No. Does it mean that that child did not understand? No. It only means that we need to see that that child has another ability, probably to be able to memorize what was taught, but as a challenge in writing.
Yes.
And the boy said, I would want to become an engineer one day. So I should be taught numbers or maths.
Has culture in any way contributed to this stigma?
Yes, the culture has. Because like if you go to some communities, some people who are challenged in a particular way, people thought they are cursed. For example, you just earned some challenge in your neurological development challenges.
Yes.
Then when you grew up, somebody says that you are cursed, or somebody during childbirth they earn some challenge, and therefore they are, in the process they have some delays, in their development. Then is that a curse? Really? It's not. So that there is the culture, or the culturally, people are looked at as if they were cursed because they were probably challenged in a way that is so usual to us.
Yes.
And that's what we need to change, so that instead of seeing like it's a curse, then we need to ask, what is this person can do? And how can we be able to enhance that so that they become very good in it?
How do we change that mindset?
Now, one of the things like what we are doing now, because we are sharing this with the society, so that the people who have not heard about it can hear it. And when they hear it, they can start having a positive perspective. Why we started for example, the SNE, that is Special Needs Education Unit in Triumph in Christ School, it's not that it was by design. It's that we admitted what we call the general learners, because we started right there at the preschool. Then as they went about the school system, teachers realized that there are kids that are not probably progressing with the normal learning with the others. They found some of them, they have some learning difficulties, and they have to spend more time on them than other kids. So in that case, we ask ourselves, do we just keep pushing the kids to the next class? Or should we come in, especially as being a church-based school, or should we come in and find out how these kids can be helped more? And so with some, of course, research and checking with the Ministry of Education, we were able to realize that, yes, there are ways that these kids can be helped because there are teachers who are trained to be able to intervene in different ways to help those learners.
Yes. You know, that also brings us to the aspect of access to special needs education, as well as infrastructure. From your standpoint, do we have adequately equipped infrastructure to carry out special need education?
I would say in most of the schools, no. Why no? It is because of the same ignorance and at times probably negligence. People don't know, and at times they neglect those learners with special needs. Then you find that they don't end up investing into infrastructure that is actually complying into helping the learners with special needs. So I would say that there's a lot that need to be done, and especially when we have such a good education system, the CBE system, though it's, you know, everything that is, we get good or bad, it has its own challenges, whereby now we are not just focusing on knowledge only. We are looking at the competencies. So we need to synthesize even the learning institutions, so that as we invest, then we take care of these special learners. Yes.
What about, you know, you're talking about only infrastructure in school. What about transport for those who are physically impaired?
Well, that's a very good question, because I remember when we went to purchase a bus for our school, and I want to really appreciate the government for coming up with a policy that now when you're buying a school bus to transport learners, then you need to take care of that. So that, like, we're buying a 52 seats bus, but we end up
And to start us off on the presentation of credentials, the High Commissioner Designate, the People's Republic of Bangladesh. He has a Bachelor of Science in Physics from the University of Dhaka and has been serving as Bangladesh Deputy High Commissioner in Mumbai from January 2022 to date. His professional trainings include Civil Service Foundation course, Bangladesh Republic Administration Training Center, and Specialized Diplomatic Training course.